Still in this long third sub-period of Pluto's zero declination, Lincoln began his second term on March 4, 1865. A month later, Confederate President Jefferson Davis fled Richmond, Virginia with his cabinet and troops on April 2, 1865, rather than be captured by General Grant and his Union Army. Grant had laid siege to Richmond, the Confederate capital, and the nearby town of Petersburg. Confederates quickly set fire to all their military supplies in warehouses around Richmond so the Yankees couldn't use anything, before they, the Confederates, evacuated to Danville, Virginia, on the last open railroad line. But by then it was all over. A week later, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Grant at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9, 1865. Not even a week later, on April 14, 1865, Confederate sympathizer John Wilkes Booth assassinated President Lincoln at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Lincoln died the next day, on April 15th. He was just 56 years old. Andrew Johnson, his vice president, a Tennessee War Democrat, was sworn in as the 17th president on that same day. He would go on to be the first U.S. president ever impeached, though the Senate acquitted him by just one vote. He was strongly against giving any rights to blacks. On May 5, 1865, Jefferson Davis officially dissolved the Confederate government. 5 days later, Pluto finally moved to 1 degree north in declination, off the celestial equator, where it had been at 0 degrees declination for 3.5 years. Pluto stayed above the equator in the northern hemisphere for 3.5 months. During this time, Union Major General Gordon Granger enforced the end of slavery in Texas, where it was still being practiced. He informed the slaves there on June 19, 1865, that they were free. June 19th is now a national federal holiday commemorating the end of slavery, celebrated as Juneteenth, though I imagine Trump's racist regime will try to do away with it as they continue their relentless purge of all black history from our education system and cultural institutions. The next month, on July 7, 1865, 4 conspirators of Booth in the plot to kill Lincoln, 3 men and 1 woman, were hanged in Washington, D.C. after they were convicted by a military tribunal. It was the first time the U.S. government had executed a woman. 3 other convicted conspirators were sentenced to hard labor for life, and an 8th one got 6 years. Pluto's 4th sub-period, when it was again at 0 declination, lasted 7 months, from August 27, 1865 to March 23, 1866. During this time, the 13th Amendment was ratified, abolishing slavery on December 18, 1865. Very shortly after this, in retaliation, on December 24th, Christmas Eve, 1865, the racist Protestant hate group, the Ku Klux Klan, was formed in Pulaski, Tennessee. They're now considered America's first domestic terrorist group. They exist today and are avid Trump supporters. In fact, Trump's father, a known racist, was believed to be a member. He was arrested at one of their violent riots in Queens, New York in 1927.